I mean, we got the diehards in here. Where's the skeleton crew? Where's everybody at? Giving up on us. When there's blood in the water, usually there's more. Yeah. Okay.
All right, folks, getting ready for the regular season finale Saturday at Louisville, game time noon on the ACC network. And with that being said, we'll turn it over to
Thank you, Tony. You know, going back to last week, addressing that situation again, obviously, as I said, post-game, disappointed with the outcome and how we played. I definitely need to give a lot of credit where credit is due. Vandy played a tremendous football game. They really did. They're a very good team. They're a team worthy of discussion to be in the playoffs, and they played that way. They came in after a bye for their senior day and played exceptionally well, and give them a lot of credit. For us, we didn't play as well, but they had a lot to do with that. And so, you know, there's a lot to correct, a lot to work on, and, you know, it's really about our response. I trust our team, you know, that they will respond the right way. We've faced adversity throughout this year and have bounced back in a good way for the most part. You know, we play very good football teams. Vandy certainly being one of them. We've played other very good teams this year. Some we played well, some not so well. But we've come back and responded and regrouped, and we're going to have to do the same thing. Really looking forward to another great challenge here this week, playing a big rival on the road for their senior day. So a very big game. It's important to myself. It's important to the team. It's important to the BBN and the state. So we're going to try to represent us the right way and work exceptionally hard this week and be prepared to play a great game. You know, with Louisville, a very veteran football team. Jeff always does a great job. Very good offensive mind, along with his brother Brian. And Ron English on the defensive side has done an exceptional job. So very tough team and another great challenge and important game.
Mark, have you talked to Vince since he left last summer?
Yeah, we've talked. Very short, but we had some mutual friends, mutual tragedy, you know what I mean, things of that nature, some personal things, you know, briefly.
Do you think, I mean, it may not be the case for you, but do you think some of the guys who played for Vince might have made a little extra something?
I don't know if you need any, truthfully. You know, in this situation, it feels like, you know, so long ago, you know, that there's a lot that's transpired between now and then. And, you know, the game is important. The response is important. You know, there's a lot of things that are important. You know, that personal touch on it, I think, you know, no. I don't think there's anything there.
Nevertheless, over the years, your guys do seem to come out ready to play. Is it, what do you think is the secret to that success, to making sure they're ready to roll?
You know, I wish, you know, we always knew the right buttons to push. I think it's hard throughout a year, you know what I mean? And in this game, you know, it's the last game. You have to empty the tank, right? I mean, this is the last game of the year. Both teams are hurt, you know, with important players that are down. It's always the next man up mentality. It's you know, both of us have programs and capable players to step in. But both teams are definitely beat up, and you have to respond and give it everything you have here for this last week.
Do you have a sense of any of your defensive guys are going to be back this week?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know, but I know we have one more addition there with Cam Olds will be out for sure. So, you know, we hope to get some back. I mean, that's 8 defensive players that have been out, and you know, so, you know, maybe 1 or 2, you know, that we hope to get back.
Has Terod been close at all?
He has been. I'm sure he will give everything he can, you know, so I'll know more as the week goes on. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah, maybe Coach speak, but like when so many guys are out on both sides of the ball, does this game kind of come down to like who wants it more and what guys can step up in those roles?
I don't know. I think both sides are going to want it. You know, I don't think there's any question about that. It's still about the next guys up and executing and making plays and during critical moments, critical, situations during the game, who makes them, so we'll see.
Mark, is there anything that you can, when you look at their tape, do you look at this SMU game, or do you expect them to have like Miles back at quarterback, or how do you go off of the last game and probably them for you too?
Miller Moss, I would expect him to play, but you don't, we have to prepare for that, but you have to, you prepare for Deuce as well. Jeff has a lot of offense that he could go to, and they're always hard to defend because I think they're really good in the pass game, and they have a run game that can really hurt you. And so you have to be prepared for all of it.
Mark, when you went back and watched the Vanderbilt game, the offense not getting momentum early, was that what Vanderbilt was doing, or was there something that was just showing up there that you all weren't doing?
I think there's always things when you look at the tape and there's always things. Again, I want to credit them because they were bringing people all over. They obviously affected our offense, and certainly, quarterback's a big piece of that. Making him make split-second decisions on some things. There's things we can do better. There's things all of us can do better, and there was certainly some plays there, that we had been making.
Their blitz-happy style is different than what Louisville does, so how do you adjust after what happened week ago?
Yeah, I think the presentation's different, but definitely Louisville is very aggressive and in-your-face type of defense that we have to be able to respond to and do a better job. And, there's things systematically that I don't care to get into right this minute, but we've handled all that before, and sometimes, again, we've done it well, other times we haven't. We have to make sure we put a good plan together and be able to execute, just much like I said on the defensive side. Like, we have to be prepared for a big amount of offense. We have to be prepared for a very good run game, but also some, they could throw the ball around, and we have 5 guys that have been down in the secondary. So there's no hiding that on tape, right?
Mark, with the way that Andy got up 45-3, I think, and it would have been easy for you guys to just kind of lay over, but Cutter went back out there, and the offense kept fighting. Can you take anything from that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I wish we would have played better. There's no silver lining. I know this team is going to do that. They're going to fight. They're going to try. There was no giving up in that situation. Again, I give a lot of credit to Vandy. I mean, they beat us and they took things away. But our team has a lot of resiliency and they care and they'll respond the right way, and so I trust that. We had, and again, we had another one at the 1. I wish, we could get that play back as well and get another 7 there. So, and try to make it again.
Cutter's performances, home versus road, have been pretty drastically different this year. Is that just the young guys, is that the opponents? What do you make?
I think it's definitely a variety of things. In an environment like that, they really got rolling. And that gets hard, that gets hard. And, the numbers are the numbers, and you can look at that, but I look at some road games where I think he really did some good things. Again, I always allude to the Auburn game most recently, where I felt like in a really tough environment and against a really good defense that I thought he did some really good things in there too.
Mark, when you look at the film, what was the problem with the running?
A variety of things. There's things we can do better, systematically to protect, in the 11 personnel when we're spread out, there's some decisions to be made there, with running or throwing it. They did a nice job of taking away some of the run, and they took away the passes as well. The screens, the outlets, they blew them up on the outside. We didn't block them very good on the perimeter. That's part of the run game, and then some long guys with some windows making it tough throws. Then on some of those decisions, some of them were gives and, maybe didn't read them properly. And then there's other ways systematically where we could protect that better and getting bigger sets. and block the edges better with the blitzes and things of that nature, like we have done, for the majority of the year. So there's a combination.
Mark, it's 10 days till signing day, and I think you're down to 13 verbals. Are there any more irons in the fire, or is this just going to be
Oh, yeah, there'll be irons in the fire. There's always, guys that, come up and, it's very different now, as you know. I mean, it's different. I mean, you're having conversations with your own team right now. You know what I mean? Like, you got to you got to build this team from the inside out, right? You got to start with your guys on your team. So some of the biggest recruiting battles we will have is with our own team, right? And that's no different than anybody in the country. I mean, everybody wants to retain their good players and build out from there. So, but yes, there are some others.
On that subject, I mean, you've talked about how important continuity is in developing guys, so not just totally relying on the portal. So what should we make, if anything, of the fact that this class is 30 spots lower than what you're normally at in the recruiting rankings?
Yeah, I mean, we want to recruit well all the time. And so I'm about to give you a soundbite that I don't really want out there. You know what I mean? So let me just bite my tongue. You know what I mean? It's very different now. And I think we all know that you have to, like, we're a better football team this year than last year. I know you could write and make what you want of that, headlines however you want, but I know we're a better football team. And, I feel confident that we'll continue to grow this thing. And it's a lot of 1 year. You have to look at a roster of 1 year increments right now. And so, there are some schools that have, again, I'm not afraid to talk about it anymore, like, let's not dance around. There are some schools that have a boatload of money to buy high school kids. You know what I mean? I need to make sure those kids can help us win next year. Does that make sense? I mean, does that make any sense? You know what I mean? Like, you only have so much money. Like, you got to get your team. You have to get fillers for next year, and then you have to be able to recruit high school guys. So, there's a lot to it.
Mark, speaking of retention, you've got a lot of assistants and new deals after this year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something we're going to see happen real fast in December when that gets here?
I'm already talking with Mark Hill about that right now, and obviously Mark and Mitch will work closely together with me, and we're working through all that. I mean, there is a lot to still work through. There's a little more time, with the way the portal sets up this year, but still, you're constantly building for the future, both with your team and with your staff.
Mark, to go back to recruiting for a minute, you all seem to be making a pretty big push in the junior colleges.
Mm-hmm.
Philosophically, what is the reason for that?
Well, sometimes at a junior college, they replace some of the high school, right? Because you get a guy with multiple years. Because sometimes with the free agents, so to speak, you don't want them all to be 1 year guys. And so you'd like to have some multiple, some guys, they're a little more mature. They have some more football under their belt. We've seen more on tape. And you maybe feel a little more confident that they could come in and help you next year and have multiple years. So, and the free agent market is awfully expensive.
Mark, you were talking about Louisville's offense and prepping for that. And Jeff's kind of known as a gadget guy when it comes to some plays. What's your approach with the defense now that you're trying to hold together kind of patchwork with so many?
Well, I think, basically in a nutshell, to answer your question, is we have a lot of youth out there right now, a lot of guys with inexperience, and they're going to see a lot of things. They always just have to apply the defense. It's really impossible for us to create all the different gadgets or trick plays or things of that nature. You just have to apply your rules. And when young kids see things for the first time, sometimes it's like, yeah, I wish I could see that again. You know what I mean? But it'll be a while.
About the roster building stuff, how do you feel the relationship with JMI taking the collective stuff in-house in terms of the legitimate NIL clearinghouse stuff? How do you feel like that's going, and is that going to help?
Well, it'll help me, us tremendously, is the hope, right? So we need everybody to support that, and all of us as a university, all of our student athletes need that to work. And, for me personally, it, takes another job off my plate, so that in itself is enormous.
Coach, we're seeing across the sport and across other sports in college, active players kind of helping on the recruiting front, like, hey, serving as a representative
Yeah.
for the programs. Are you seeing that from your guys at all?
Always has, and always will. I mean, and our guys always help. They do that. They have done that for the 13 years I've been here. They always host them, spend time with them, bring them in, introduce them, and they're going to tell you the truth about your program. So the players are one of the most important pieces.
Mark, stipulating that I'm sure the Yankees and Dodgers would like to have more money to spend. Everybody wants more.
You think they would?
Everybody wants more.
Mm-hmm.
Stipulating. Are you resourced enough to get done what you need to get done?
We're working on it hard. We are working hard. You know what I mean? The university and the administration, myself, JMI, everybody is working very hard to get this done. And that I really appreciate.
Have you had any trouble getting those deals through the clearinghouse? Has that been a problem so far for you all?
I think it's better that I stay away from that. I mean, in general, I think the clearinghouse is getting its footing, and there's a lot of latitude in there right now.
Mark, Ty leads the SEC in interceptions now. Can you just talk about what his season has been and the growth he's made?
Yeah, I mean, he's just a steady guy. I've said that how many times, if you go back to his freshman year and we're sitting in here talking about it, I talked about how his maturity, he was mature beyond his years, and he's kind of just stayed with that approach. He's a guy that works really hard. He practices really hard, and if he has any limitations, he makes up for it for how, his film study, how hard he works and his preparation. He's also very high in tackles, because he's a sure tackler. And, he's done a really nice job. I think he better thank Davern was it Grant? Grant better thank Grant for that one, right? I think you could give that one to Grant. Yeah.
We've asked you a lot about the offseason, but how much easier is it, or how does it help you if you can end the season with a win to go into all of this?
It definitely helps. I mean, I said that a week ago, and unfortunately, we didn't play very good and we lost. And but it is important. As I mentioned, just with everything, the players work really hard. They want to get the results that they want, and this is a rivalry game, so it's important.
Mark, I know every team is different, but you came in this room after y'all lost to Louisville, and you said you were really disappointed kind of how the team played. Is that
to Louisville?
Louisville last year.
Last year, so yeah.
So does that make extra, I don't want to say motivation, but extra, get that bad taste out of your mouth? I guess.
I really, without skirting the question, I mean, yes, but there's so much, you know what I mean, that has happened between now and then, and it feels like so long ago. But yes, it's important. You know what I mean? Like, when you go back and have to watch the tape and all that, yeah, I mean, it definitely is not a good feeling. But, for us, it's always that week to week. You know what I mean? It's pretty easy for me to compartmentalize things. You know what I mean? And it's pretty easy just to be really excited and motivated on a Monday for this week, right? Because last week's gone. Let's just, look for solutions moving forward. So, but it is definitely a piece of it. You can't ignore that, so.
You've talked about your guys always showing up for work on Monday. Mm-hmm. When you get beat like that, is it kind of good to be able to get back and just move forward from it?
Without question. And, when we have done that, right? I mean, again, you play some really good football teams, and you're going to have some bad days. And, the Georgia game, we respond, play well at Texas, come up short, but play our tails off. The Tennessee game, I mentioned how, hard, how bad we felt that day, and bounce back and play very good the next week at Auburn and put everything into it. So, that's what's important to me, that the team responds, they prepare, we as a staff give them the best plan, and then you go give it everything you have. And the results are the results, but it means as much to me with how we do it and how we prepare, and what the players are doing, and they've done things, the right way in that department. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, we want to play better. We want the results to be there. I mean, we need them to be. But how we handle our business is super important.
Mark DeVere Rayner had 15 tackles. Seems like he's sort of taking it up a notch down the stretch.
Very much. Played very well. Just in there, kind of taking charge. We're down a lot of bodies. Don't really even have a lot of backups in certain positions. And played the whole game and kind of, didn't blink. You know what I mean? Sometimes guys, let's be honest. He plays a physical position, a lot of snaps, long year, and in there to the last snap, playing his tail off, and really appreciate that.
What does that say? The question about him entering the year was his physicality.
Yeah. It is really good, knock on wood. He's been a guy that stayed healthy, and, he's a senior, and he's playing really well, and very happy for him and for us. He's been a really steady guy.
This is one of those games that there's always a lot of emotions from both sides. Do you let your guys go out there and have those emotions? Do you try to calm them? How do you kind of maintain in a game when lots on the line and it's all right?
There's always a fine balance there, right? Last week, Vandy obviously plays with an edge and an attitude, and give them credit. It's hard not to respect it. You know what I mean? But when you're on the wrong side of it, you don't like it, right? But there's always a fine balance there.
Mark, you played as a kid from Ohio, and you learned about what the rivalry was like in Iowa. And you've coached in games with lots of different rivalry games. How does this one stack up in terms of the fan involvement, the emotion, the history, and all that stuff?
It feels like all the ones I've been involved in. It just really does, because it's important. It's important. This is where I've lived for a long time. As I mentioned, whether you like it or not, I'm a Kentuckian now, right? I've been here as long as anywhere I've been. I left home at 17, haven't been back, so this is home, and I care, and so it's a rivalry that it's important to both teams, and it's important to the state, and it's important to your fans, so it'll be important to our team.
Coach, last week Jamari told us that he's contemplating one day maybe coaching. Is that something that you can see him being successful at?
Jamari Macklin?
Yes.
Jay Mack? Yeah, I could see that. He's a guy that, things don't always go as perfectly as everybody wants, but, you stay the course, you make a difference, you help as much as you can, and he had some injuries, and then we're, playing some other guys, and, but he's always there, he's always reliable, and he's stepped in games in critical moments and made catches for us, in not this past week, but the couple previous to that he did, and he's always staying involved, and that's a great quality.
Willie Rodriguez.
Yeah. Really big game. Yeah, you mentioned both of our players of the game, and Daver and Willie on offense. Both of them played very good football games. Willie made some spectacular catches. Again, played hard. Throughout the entire game. Made some really tough catches. And that's a quarterback's friend when you do some of that, right? So it's good to see him step up.
Any word on Josh? Okay.
Yeah, Josh and Cam Olds will both be out for this game.
That Josh Adams.
Anyone else? Good.